Hello UCAR, Peter Christensen here, coming to you from the CEO's desk. So I get asked this question every so often. How do I handle an unrepresented buyer? So you're representing the seller, have a listing, and a buyer comes without an agent. No problem. You can totally handle that transaction. Couple things to be aware of. So you want to make it abundantly clear to the buyer that you do not represent the buyer. You represent the seller. Everything you're saying is on the seller's behalf and in their best interest and should not be construed as advice to the buyer. So we don't want to cross the line, and we want to make sure that the buyer realizes, yeah, I don't represent you. So any questions you ask me, I'm answering them in the context of what's best for the seller, and I'm not giving you any advice. Luckily, there is a form for this. It's the unrepresented buyer disclosure. I recommend using it. What it does is just spells out to the buyer saying, hey, and when you make it formal and have them sign something, it seems to go even better. You acknowledge I don't represent you, so I've warned you that you're aware. I'm not representing you, I represent the seller. And they should understand that and hopefully get it, and you should be fine. The second thing to think about is to not then overstep that bound and actually try and represent them at the same time. That's, I think, the temptation sometimes. Oh, they don't understand how to do this aspect or that aspect, so I'll just explain to them. I'll help them out. And I think you need to be very careful with how far you go. Again, within your capacity of representing the seller, you're fine. So they ask you questions, and you can let them know, we need this back from you. We need this deadline, is not being met or whatever. But you're communicating on behalf of the seller, and you're always doing it in the seller's best interest. Nothing wrong with still communicating, but it gets tempting, or the buyer sometimes asks for help when you're in the middle of a transaction, and you've got to be abundantly clear to them, hey, I don't represent you. If you want to talk to your attorney, you want to talk to whomever, that's great, but here's what I can do in my capacity of representing the seller. So should be fine. Just make it clear. I recommend getting that form signed, and you should be good. Again, this is not intended as specific legal advice. This is legal information only. If you need specific legal advice, please contact your attorney. Thanks for tuning in.